Well, it's Tuesday.
It is.
It is, and so we're doing a collector's attic. This is sort of fun, as you guys all know, as everybody knows, this has been the year of the 150th anniversary of the driving of the Golden Spike at Promontory, Utah, the Promontory Summit.
Yes.
And of course, we were up there for the 150th reenactment of the driving of the Golden Spikes. Because there were actually 4 of them.
Yeah, I was taught in school there was a golden spike.
There was, and it's a long story, and there's a link right here to that long story, because we chased down the 3 surviving spikes. We also found the what's been called the lost spike, which I would call the second Hughes spike, and another. But there are golden spikes. One has truly gone missing. No one ever knew what happened. It vanished in the 1906 San Francisco earthquake and fire.
My.
And oddly enough, it probably didn't melt in the fire. It was in a newspaper, the San Francisco News, what was it? Anyway, Examiner, something. And the building burned down, and they never found the spike. So what do you want to bet that to these days, somewhere buried in San Francisco under the street or something is the missing golden spike?
Wow.
Yeah, that'd be a thing to find, wouldn't it?
No kidding.
Anyway.
Look down.
Look down and keep an eye out for that. But that's an intriguing story. At any rate, while we've been going around to all these different events, the Big Boy was restored and came out for this. In fact, the Big Boy's coming back here in just a couple of days.
Isn't that exciting?
Ed is on his way.
Yes.
And he's heading back for Southern California, and I'll bet you anything we do some festivities at Pomona to celebrate the return of the Big Boy that was saved down there in Pomona. Anyway, all these great events surrounding the 150th anniversary. Well, as we've been going to these things, we've been collecting stuff.
Souvenirs.
Souvenirs. We got some souvenir T-shirts, and because we always have to get the.
We always wear the souvenir T-shirt wherever we travel. We pick up a T-shirt.
Yeah. So, but we grabbed some interesting caca.
Yes.
Some fun stuff. So we thought we'd share with you a couple of our little souvenirs. These are sort of fun. Here, you can have that one.
Oh,
I'll have this one.
Yes.
They're just little itty-bitty golden spikes.
The golden spike lapel pin.
Just the golden spike lapel pin. There were a bunch of spikes made in this size out of actual gold that were made from the sprue from the Hughes spike.
Right.
This guy Hughes is the one who came up with the idea for the golden spike, and he contracted to have 2 made, and then he picked the better of the 2 and gave that to Leland Stanford, and that was the one they were going to use in the ceremony. Oh. And then there was an idea that kind of took off, so then Nevada made a silver spike.
Right.
Arizona made a silver and gold and iron spike. And the San Francisco Examiner made yet another golden spike. And then Hughes went ahead and finished his second golden spike for his own particular gratification. But he took the sprue for that was as big as the spike.
I couldn't believe how big that sprue would be.
Because the second spike still has the sprue attached. And when we got to see that finally in Sacramento, it's like, holy cow, no wonder they were able to make all these things out of the sprue.
Right.
Because there was as much gold in the sprue as there was in the spike.
I know, I'm thinking it's the size of these little spike, what the sprue would have to be, and not,
But they made about 8 of these. One of those is on display at the National Historic Site at Promontory.
Right.
3 of them are in the Union Pacific Museum in Omaha.
Right.
They're around. But these are reproductions of those, and that's about the right size. But those were watch fobs.
Right.
And they have a little gold chain to hook them to a watch. Then there were several rings, a man's ring,
and a lady's ring.
But then the most elegant locket.
Yes.
It's just made out, and it's got a little gold spike on it, and that is, and that's next to the second Hughes spike at the California Railroad Museum in Sacramento. We got a chance finally to see that.
Finally,
as well.
yes.
We've been dying to see that.
Which was worth the wait to see that.
So, of course, then we had to buy some souvenirs to go along with that. They would not sell us the locket.
Or even, they don't even have a replica
I offered
of
them
it.
$100. Nothing. Yeah, no replica. That'd be an interesting replica.
Well, it would be. They should make a replica, gold-plated or something, but and sell it for a
But we did get the replicas of these.
Right.
Now, there were a bunch of replicas made of golden spikes. And some were plastic. And
I like the plastic ones. You pick them up and go, oh, it's heavy.
Because it looks just like a spike. It weighs about 2
Yeah.
ounces.
Yeah.
But this is what we actually bought.
That's worth it.
And because originally there were 4 spikes driven into a laurel tie, and they weren't ever driven, they were just dropped into holes.
Right.
Incidentally, the last spike, the top of it's all dented in, and I always thought that was because they drove
That's
it
where
into
they drove it in, yeah.
No, it was just dropped into a hole. It just clink and went to the bottom. And then they ceremonially tapped it with a silver. They ceremonially tapped it with a silver maul. And I thought, well, maybe they dented it. No, it was the soldiers that day at the driving of the Golden Spike. Every one of them came by and popped it with their cane, their walking stick, to dent the top so they could say they drove in the Golden Spike.
Well,
and that's how it got damaged.
That's how it got damaged.
So you can see some damage to it
but
from that.
It's now priceless damage.
It's priceless damage, and you wouldn't want to change anything,
No,
of course, because
not
it's
at all.
history.
That's right.
Anyway, at Promontory, they were selling this little souvenir just on May 10th.
Yes.
And this is all 4 spikes. And so there they are, the 4 spikes that were dropped into the laurel tie.
Yes.
And they're not very accurate reproductions, but they're kind of.
They're close.
They're close enough for government work. So here's the San Francisco Newsletter, and they don't have the right engraving. They just say
No, they
which
just
spike
say which
they
one
are,
it is.
because each one of these was engraved. This one, let's see if I can get this other one out. Okay. This is the Nevada spike, and it just says Nevada.
Nevada, and it's silver.
And it's got some elaborate engraving on it
does.
and whatnot. But what's funny is all of the polishing and engraving was done after the fact.
They were in a hurry.
They were in a hurry. It didn't occur to them to do it until the last minute. And so
Yes.
they just grabbed a chunk of silver, handed it over to a blacksmith, and said, turn this into a spike. And he just took a hammer and hammered it into the shape of a spike, and that's what they showed up at Promontory with. Apparently it was pretty gnarly looking. And they rushed it back to Carson City and gave it over to an actual silversmith who turned it into the elegant piece that you see. It's the same spike, but it didn't look anything like
They
that the day
polished
that
it
they
out.
did. Anyway, this represents that, and it is silver, and it says Nevada on it. This is Arizona's spike. Now, Arizona's spike was really intriguing. They just took a regular spike, and they ground down the sides and then layered that over with about 1/8 of an inch thick layer of silver, and they did engraving on that. And then they cast a gold top.
Oh.
And they ground off the top of the iron spike with a little nub to hold the gold, and then they just attached the golden
Attached
top.
the
And then
gold.
the top has some elaborate, beautiful engraving on it. So for the souvenir, the Arizona souvenir, they've actually plated the top in gold, and the sides are in silver.
That's so fun.
So isn't
That's
that
neat.
neat?
I like that
And
one.
then, of course, the Hughes spike.
There it is.
The Stanford spike.
Right.
The last spike.
The last
And this
spike.
was the last one driven into, or dropped into its
Dropped
hole.
into its.
And it was beautiful. It did have all of the engraving. And that's pretty neat. So
That's awesome.
this set came with all 4 spikes in this great little box. So how cool is that?
That's wonderful.
That was neat, and it's got the 150th logo and,
Yes.
and the history,
The history on
of
the
each of
back.
the spikes on the back.
Wonderful souvenir.
Now we ordered this one because it's Bradford Exchange,
The Bradford Exchange.
and they were going to do an elaborate souvenir, and so here's what they came up with. And I can't frame it up, so I'll take a picture of it and show it to you that way.
Well, it does it more justice, too. if you do
Yeah,
it that
because you
way.
can't really see, but
It's
it's got
reflective.
a wonderful painting here
Oh, it's just beautiful.
of the day. It's got a medallion,
Yes.
a metallic medallion. It looks like gold, but it's not even plated. It's just a medallion.
medallion.
It's got the famous photograph. Of the day. It's got a description as an engraved metal plate,
Yes.
which is really quite well done. And then it does have a gold
golden spike.
a reproduction golden spike.
Yes.
So that's just really neat. We ordered
beautiful.
this and had to wait 6 months or so.
Something
it was
like
quite
that.
some period of time.
I imagine there were a lot of people
It
getting
actually just
them.
came a few days ago.
Right.
And so we're very happy to. This will be
get
hung
that.
up in a place of honor.
Exactly.
In the living room or something
Yes.
like that. 17.6 karat gold replica.
Wow. So
go
almost
figure.
18 karat gold.
Almost 18 karat gold.
Yes.
Incidentally, the engraving on this spike says, quite interestingly, the Central Pacific Railroad ground broken.
January 8th.
January 8th, 1863, and completed May 10th, 1869.
Wow.
Well, that makes a good deal of sense, except that's not engraved on the golden spike.
No.
For one thing, the spike was supposed to be driven on May 8th, so had they written that on there, they'd have written May 8th, not May 10th.
Right.
It was delayed, and it's a wonderful story why and how that came to be.
Right.
But in fact, the date that's listed on the real golden spike is May 8th, because that was when it was supposed to happen. So what's with this? This is a replica of the second Hughes spike, the one that's on display in Sacramento.
There we go.
Whoever made this replica must have thought that was the actual golden spike, and they made a replica of the replica, which has different engraving. This engraving is nowhere on the actual last spike. They're very similar,
Right.
but that little statement about ground broken and the date May 10th is only on the second Hughes spike,
Wow.
the one that's on display in
So
Sacramento.
much different information. I was about to go crazy. They taught us one thing in elementary school, and then we find out something different later on.
There's always something. There's
Right.
always something. And we were actually told that the spike was on display in the Utah State Capitol.
Yes, we even seen it on field trips. It's like, ooh.
There's a beautiful reproduction, which is now in the Daughters of Utah Pioneers
yes.
Museum.
Yes.
They kicked it out of the Capitol for some reason, but it's a very good replica,
Yes,
but it's a replica.
there's
But we
another
were
one, too, in
always
Ogden.
told there's one in Ogden, and there's the one in Ogden claims to be the last spike,
golden
and they have the safe that it was kept in. And it might very well be that the safe they have up there was the safe that transported the spikes,
Yes.
because it's an authentic spike safe from that era. And it may be that the museum up there did get a hold of the safe, but they sure didn't get a hold of the spike.
Oh, I'm glad they didn't leave it up there like we were told when I was in elementary school.
That
right?
they drove it in the ground and left it there.
Yes, at Promontory Point.
At Promontory Point.
Yeah, I always wanted to go there and see that golden spike. You know, my dad's like, it wouldn't be there after all
wouldn't be
this
there.
time. No, it wouldn't be.
And the ultimate piece of misinformation, the last spike, the golden spike, wasn't the last spike.
No.
The last spike was a common iron spike driven in by a regular track worker. Nobody even wrote down his name. But they wanted to actually drive a spike which was connected to the telegraph so that the blows could be heard coast to coast.
Yes.
And these were ceremonial spikes to be dropped into holes.
Right.
So the actual spike that had to be driven in had to be an iron spike, and nobody knew how to drive in an iron spike except the track
The
workers.
worker.
So they just grabbed one of the guys and said, drive the
Come
spike
on
in.
over here.
And that was the actual
That was it.
final spike.
Right.
How about all that?
That's just.
But
yeah.
some neat
Pomp and
souvenirs,
circumstance,
some really
and-
neat souvenirs, and this
that's just
this Bradford
beautiful.
is just.
It's going to look great when we get it hung up.
And I'm really fond of the 4 reproduction
Right.
spikes too. Well, if you haven't been over to the channel, pop on over to the channel. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe.
Yes.
You can then be notified when we do something silly. But it also lets us prove to YouTube and various people that people are actually watching.
And we're silly.
Data and statistics and algorithms and all of this.
Yes.
Silliness. So the easy way to become a subscriber or just get over to the channel if you just want to go over there to binge watch for a while is to click the blue button. Are we ready? Zarg! The blue button. Well, we're not sure how you found this movie on the internet, and we hope you didn't find it boring. And we will see you here on Sunday because we've got some really neat stuff to show
Oh,
you.
yeah. See you. Bye.